You picked up a STIHL HL 56. Way to go. What a great hedge trimmer for dealing with hedges that are, kind of in this knee high to maybe up into this, that you're not having a deep reach over the top. Great balance, weight, gives you an amazing reach as you do the sides, as well as if you do end up stepping up on a ladder, a good reach out, allowing you to stay close to your ladder so you don't fall. Hey guys, Josh with Carl's Mower and Saw, and today we're gonna take a peek at what you need to know to get the most out of this so that you can be running this in 10 or 15 or 20 years down the road and not have some crappy thing hanging on the wall collecting dust and you're going, why did I buy that? So first of all, before I get into that, and we'll start with some safety stuff, but before I get into that, if I can give a pro tip of sorts, is take this freaking handle off, okay? As a homeowner, as somebody who's used to running a string trimmer / weed eater, you're used to a handle and you naturally want to go for the handle and grab the handle. That's not how this thing balances out. Really, it's made to be ran by holding onto the shaft, and then you can move your hand placement to change your balance point as you run a diverse set of shrubs, bushes. If we take a look here, I'm going to grab its commercial, its professional partner, which is the HL91. You see there's no handle on it. Do you see that? The pro guys know that you don't need a handle. So first point would be to probably take that handle off. STIHL may not like me saying that, but I'll just tell you, it's gonna feel a lot better. Okay, now let's get into some safety, because we do have something that's loud, and we do have something that's just back and forth, ripping some blades that could do some damage. So we wanna make sure that we have our eyes protected, and guess what I don't have in front of me? My safety gear. Good news, Josh. We can talk about it anyways. So we need some safety glasses, and we need to protect our ears, right? So we're gonna wear earmuffs, earplugs, safety glasses, always long pants. They talk about wearing gloves. That's probably a good thing. So just get your safety gear on and be ready to go. And now let's dig into this machine. This is a gasoline powered 2-stroke machine, and knowing that it's a 2-stroke or a 2-cycle, we have to mix the fuel. So we've got a couple ways to approach that. We can use the STIHL HP Ultra. I use this quite often. HP Ultra to 1 gallon of ethanol-free fuel. Please, always ethanol-free fuel. And it becomes more important in a tool that we don't use weekly, right? So a hedge trimmer, how many of you guys are out there, like trimming your hedge every week? Every 2 weeks? Every 3 weeks? Every month? No, it's really, honestly, like every 3 months, depending on the shrub that you're cutting, right? So this is a tool that's gonna spend a lot of time in the barn, hanging out, waiting to go to work. And if you have fuel with ethanol, you're just asking for problems. So try to stick with an ethanol-free fuel or step it up to Moto Mix. This thing's gonna run about an hour on a tank of fuel. So you're gonna get about 2.5 fills on this fuel tank, maybe 3 fills on this fuel tank off of this can of Moto Mix. Maybe that's all you need. So consider it on a tool that you don't use a lot, running Moto Mix, or for sure stick with ethanol free. Okay, looking at this top end, besides running fuel, besides seeing that issue, really let's keep an eye on an air filter. And when we're running a hedge trimmer, we don't get a super dirty air filter. We're not usually dusty, flying debris up, sucking in a bunch of debris like we would with a weed eater or a blower or even a chainsaw, right? But still a good idea to keep an eye on my air filter. That is placed right under this black cover, and I suppose we should take this off. Let's get a peek at it. Okay, one screw is going to take off with this T27 Torx wrench, and this tool should have come with it. Your steel scrunch that has the T27, as well as your socket sizes that can do your spark plug, and this screw also. Maybe take this handle off, remove all kinds of stuff. So the cover is off, and we're gonna have this felt air filter. Peel this out. Generally, this is a replaceable air filter. This is just something I toss and I throw a new one in. You can wash it, but it's super dense. It's gonna take a while to dry, so don't go out to use it, check the filter, wash it, and expect to use it. You're then gonna be getting water in through the intake of your carburetor, not something you wanna have. So if this thing looks ugly, probably replace it. If you pull it off and there's some leaves on it, a little bit of debris, just brush it off, put on your list to pick up a new air filter next time you're at your STIHL dealer. Let's put that cover back on. Next in the line of the engine service is going to be the spark plug. Not happening often, but definitely something that you want to just do it as a safety. Cover is on. Okay, spark plug. We're doing the spark plug every couple of years as a homeowner, as a residential user, as a we'll call it power user. Spark plug is going to be located right here. To get this boot, to get this rubber cap off, you've got to be careful. Just yesterday at Carl's Mower and Saw, somebody walked in and they have rubber boot, cap in hand and tool in other hand. They're like, right? They had decided they would replace the spark plug and they grabbed a hold of it and they pulled it off. They're on there fairly stiff. So sometimes I'll take this scrinch and I'll get it underneath, kind of in the knee of sorts, right? In the knee pit, and pry up gently, and then you feel that spring come off, and now my spark plug boot is off and I can take my scrinch and remove the spark plug. I think that's an easy little tip, but be careful as you pull this off because sometimes it'll fight you. Fuel filter, that's going to be hiding in the tank. How often should I do a fuel filter? What kind of crap are you putting in it, right? If you're putting bad gas, and when I say bad gas, if you're putting gas that you bought and it's 6 months old, or you're leaving your fuel can out and you might get moisture in it, whatever. If you're putting bad gas in, your fuel filter is going to need to be replaced more often. If you're running a good clean fuel and keeping up on your fuel flow, you could go years without needing a fuel filter. But it is something to pay attention to. That's hiding in the tank. Usually that's changed by getting a little wire out, fishing this fuel filter out and replacing it. And then one last thing on the engine is going to be this spark arrestor, which is a screen that's right at the exhaust point. You see that little screen right there? Got that? Okay, over time, that can carbon up or soot up. That especially happens if we're running at kind of a half throttle. We're not using the full power. I mean, this thing has a lot of power. I don't need to be at full RPM. Well, as that's happening, I'm not burning the fuel oil mix clean, and we're putting out a heavier carbon exhaust, and that screen will plug. A couple other things that do that besides not running at full power would be bad gas, stale gas, improperly mixed gas, like, oh, well, calls for 2.6 ounces per gallon. Let's go ahead and put in 3.2 because more is always better, right? A little more oil is going to keep it better. Not necessarily true. A dirty air filter. So anything that's going to cause this machine to run rich is going to, over time, plug up this exhaust. And so if you ever go out and this thing is constipated, it just doesn't want to come up to power. It starts well, but as I pull the trigger, it's like, wah, wah, wah. Come on, what's going on? Take a look at that screen. Pretty simple. We'll gladly do it for you. We like to make money off you, so come in, we can do it. But if you want to do it yourself at home, that's something to take a peek at. Okay, moving down. Okay, really not a ton of maintenance here. We've got a lubrication point, so we're going to use our STIHL multi-grease. This plug right on the top is going to come out with my T27. Plug is out. This will thread in. Probably don't stand in this position when you're doing this. Screw that in, give it a light squeeze. About every 40 hours, you should be greasing this. That's a lot of hedge trimming. So I would say for a lot of people, why don't you once a year just give it a nice fresh update to the grease. And we're talking, 3/4 of an inch long, the diameter of I think toothpaste on your toothbrush. Okay, that's what I'm envisioning. And then lubing the blades. So depending on what we're cutting, these blades can get really dry. So if I'm cutting a nice leafy green material, sometimes they have a nice, we'll call it a sap, right? But it's providing its own lubrication. Sometimes I'm cutting material and there is just no wetness, no moisture in the material I'm cutting, and these blades are going to run dry. So we need to make sure that we lubricate these blades. And you can use a lot of different things. So you could use a WD-40-like product. There's lots of things like that, and that will lube the blades great. But if we're getting into sticky, pitchy stuff, so we're getting into some of these evergreens where, if you touch it after you've cut, you got pitch on your hands and it sticks. That same thing happens to these blades. Okay, so that's where we grab our STIHL resin remover, or Haarluger. I'm not German, but something like that. I'd love to hear how you say it. Anyways, this is the spray to use as you get that black resin pitch buildup because not only will it lubricate the blades, it will also cut that pitch. It's amazing how the performance comes back. So you're out there hedging and these blades are getting gummed up. It slows everything down. Your quality of cut goes down. You spray this on, you keep going, comes back to life. So really the best stuff for lubricating these blades is the STIHL resin remover. There are options out there. You can go with something cheaper, but grab yourself a can and you'll be very happy with that, what happens. Blade sharpening, really these blades will stay sharp a long time. Most commercial cutters sharpen their hedge trimmers, from what I see coming through our shop, usually 2 to 3 times a year. And if we consider the amount of cutting that happens in that time, it may be 4 to 5 or 6 years before I need to get my hedge trimmer sharpened that I picked up for my house. Okay, it is a pain to sharpen. Flat file, it takes a long time. You got a lot of angles, right? You've got on each top and bottom blade, you have 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, plus then you go to the bottom, right? So you've got, I don't know, 80 cutting surfaces that you have to sharpen. We use a die grinder here at Carl's with a cutting disc. I will warn against that, because if you don't have a steady hand or don't have experience, you'll eat these blades up pretty fast. And a replacement set of blades is expensive. So think sharpening 4 or 5 years, you will be able to tell, just like your lawnmower blade and that grass is brown on the end, and it's probably time to sharpen them up. So how do we start this baby? We're gonna put fuel in it. Sure, we should start it, shouldn't we? Let's put some fuel in it. We're gonna grab some Moto Mix, open up the can. Does anybody notice the Moto Mix shape change? This was square, they've gone back to round. I think they found better pouring characteristics out of the round bottle, I believe. That could be the reason. So we got some Moto Mix in, let's put the cap back on. We're gonna prime it. We gotta get fuel in up to the carburetor, so it's gonna take a few more the first time. Usually, I say 4 or 5 primes is enough to get fuel up to the carb. We can't flood it though. I mean, I can just keep pumping, not gonna hurt. So we're primed up, then we're gonna choke it. We're gonna push in and twist up. The choke is now set. A couple things, the choke is attached to this trigger. Hear that click? So the choke just shut off. So if I set it on the ground and my hand goes around that trigger and I turn the choke off, this thing's gonna start really hard. You're not gonna be very happy. So make sure that as you're starting it, you're gripping something like this, not holding on to the trigger. And then the stop button, stop switch is always on. I kill it, it's off, and now it's ready to start again. So let's see what happens when I fire this up. Primed, choked, not pulling the trigger. First start, so it might take a few more. This has the easy start. We've talked about that before. That's a nice feature, but I'm not gonna rip hard. I'm going to there we go. The STIHL HL56. Enjoy your awesome new tool. And we will see you here at Carl's Mower and Saw to get all the proper accessories that you need to make the most out of your tools.